Have you ever felt like you are just going through the motions, like you are disconnected from yourself and everyone around you? That was me not too long ago. I'm Rachel Hupp, and welcome to episode 2 of my 5-part series, Wildly Aligned: 5 Ways Yoga Has Transformed My Life, on the Magic Mindfulness Podcast. And today we're talking about how yoga can boost your self awareness and emotional intelligence. So don't worry if those terms sound fancy. We're going to break those down into everyday language. Now, in this episode, you're going to learn what self awareness and emotional intelligence really mean and why they matter, how yoga can help you to understand yourself better, simple ways to start improving your self awareness today. And I'll share a little bit about my personal journey from emotional confusion to clarity. So, whether you are a yoga pro, whether you're just curious, this episode is for you if you want to understand yourself better and improve your relationships with yourself and with others. And stick around to the end because I'm going to be sharing how you can take this work deeper with my Wildly Aligned Women program. So, let's dive in. Now, before I really got into yoga, I kind of thought that I had it together. People saw me as caring, sensitive, happy go lucky, but inside, I was struggling. A lot of times, my emotions just felt too big to handle. I would push down anything that was negative: anger, fear, sadness. Even when I was happy, I would feel this sense of unease, like I didn't deserve it. Something bad was about to happen, or the other shoe was about to drop, right? And this affected my outlook on life. This has affected how I showed up in the world. When I was stressed out, I would tend to either hide, go into hermit mode, or I would get impatient and I would find myself snapping at people around me, taking my emotions out on them because I didn't know how to process them, right? I hated conflict. I still don't like conflict, but I tried to avoid it at all costs, which usually made things worse. And believe it or not, I used to smoke cigarettes. I used to smoke a pack a day. I thought that this helped me to cope. And looking back, I think it was really just the deep breaths and the time outside that I really needed, not the cigarettes, not the nicotine. So I have been cigarette free since October 2010. So going on my 14-year anniversary here. But the point that I'm trying to make is that my relationships suffered, and not just my relationships with other people, but also my relationship with myself. But talking about relationships with other people, I was a people pleaser. I was a doormat. I couldn't express my feelings. I couldn't express my needs. I was shy. I was awkward in social situations. Maybe I still am. But here's the thing, I cared about other people's feelings so much, but I didn't know that I was a highly sensitive person. I didn't know how empathetic I was. I would take on their problems, their issues, their feelings as if they were my own. And let's talk about indecision. I could not make a decision. Making decisions was so hard. I'm still not the best at it, but I can do it now. Back then, though, I would avoid making decisions at all costs. I was so scared that I would be wrong, that I would make the wrong choice, that people would judge me for it. And so when I did decide, I would always second guess myself, right? I felt disconnected from myself, body, mind, heart, and soul. I didn't feel like I knew who I was. I didn't understand how my emotions affected me physically or how my body could give me clues about my feelings. And let's talk about work-life balance because that did not exist, my friend. I felt so guilty taking time for myself. I would always be the first one to pick up extra shifts because I was a doormat and I could not say no. I was a people pleaser. My mind, I felt like my mind was always racing. I couldn't slow down. I couldn't calm down. I was always thinking about what I had to do next or worrying about the future, ruminating about the past. Did I make the right decision back there? And so when I first came to yoga, I came to it for the physical practice, the asana, right? The time on the mat. And like I said, I had a really hard time slowing down. My mind couldn't slow down. And in those moments of stillness, I would feel overwhelmed. I would feel anxious, right? And so I would take these challenging classes that didn't really give me an opportunity to slow down, that pushed me. And I would try to do the pose perfectly. But what I didn't realize at the time is that I was not connecting with the deeper aspects of yoga. I was connecting with a physical practice. Yeah. Yeah. I knew that there was something more to this, that blissed out feeling at the end of class. Like that wasn't just an ordinary workout. But I didn't know at the time what I didn't know. Right. And so I have to tell you, my friend, I was a mess. I was a mess. I knew my faults, but I couldn't see the good in myself. I had no idea what I valued, what I really valued, what was important to me. I had spent so much time and energy trying to mold myself into this perfect person for other people that I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. I lost myself. And this lack of self awareness, this emotional lack of emotional understanding, in hindsight, I didn't know it at the time, but in hindsight, looking back, I can clearly see that it was affecting every aspect of my life, every part of my life, my relationships with myself and others, my work, and how I felt about myself. And so, my journey to greater self awareness and greater emotional intelligence through yoga, it wasn't something that I intentionally sought out, right? It's just kind of like a side effect that looking back, I can see that I have received this benefit over time, which is one of the reasons if you come to one of my classes, I always, or at least I often, invite students to be open to receiving all that they know to ask for and more. Because all of these benefits that I have received from yoga, many of them never would have crossed my mind to ask for. So, this journey to greater self awareness, greater emotional intelligence through incorporating yoga into my daily life, it wasn't quick, it wasn't easy, but it was a slow, gradual process of learning and growing and building new habits. And I think looking back, I think it probably started with a simple body awareness. And so I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. In one class, the teacher had us, we were lying on our backs, and the teacher had us place our feet about hips width distance apart. So our knees were bent and we had to place our feet about hips width distance apart. And this was a beginner class and our eyes were closed. So I'm lying on my back, my knees are bent, and I'm asked to, without looking, place my feet hips width distance apart and then open them up to see where I actually was in the space. And it's amazing because I would say the vast majority of students in that class did not have their feet hips width distance apart with just feeling into where their legs were and their hips were without looking. Most of us either had our feet much narrower in or much further away. And so it just goes to show you how we get so disconnected from our body. We don't know where we are taking up space. And so that was just a very small exercise that really, in a very subtle but powerful way, showed me how disconnected I was from my own body. And so just that simple act of allowing my body to take up space. And remember, I was super, super shy. So I was used to trying to shrink myself down, to trying to make myself smaller. And so this yoga practice invited me to take up space, invited me to be in my body, to let my body be where it was. And so that was powerful, my friend. That was powerful. And as my journey continued, as my practice evolved, mindfulness really became key. And, at first, I could not sit still to meditate. I could not sit still at all. And so instead, I focused on, in my physical practice, in the asana, connecting breath to movement. And I took my meditation on the road. I was training for marathons and 50Ks at the time. So I considered that my moving meditation. I could connect my breath to the movement. I could connect to the feeling of my feet hitting the pavement or the gravel or the ground. And I could take in all the sounds and the experiences around me. And it was magical. One thing, though, that I was a little bit surprised at, I never expected, and we'll probably get more into this next week, was that I learned to face discomfort with curiosity instead of judgment. So think about that. When we're on the yoga mat, we often encounter poses that challenge our comfort zone, right? And that happens in our day to day life quite often as well. But on the mat, we are encouraged to approach this discomfort as long as it doesn't verge into pain. We're encouraged to approach this discomfort with a sense of curiosity, with open mindedness, with self compassion. And so I noticed that that began to spill over into the rest of my life, which again, at the time, I didn't really notice it was happening. It was just kind of happening. But now looking back, I can clearly see, whoa, that was life changing. I could face discomfort with curiosity. I could face discomfort without that judgment. I could sit in discomfort without necessarily trying to get away from it or avoid it. And so over time, I developed a seated meditation practice. I think if you've heard me talk about it before, I literally committed to 1 minute a day because once I got to the mat, I could certainly stay longer. But if I really wasn't feeling it, I had done what I set out to do. I achieved my daily practice, and the practice meets us where we are. So nowadays, I have a really strong seated meditation practice, and I am able to watch my thoughts as an observer without getting caught up in them. Now, one big insight was realizing that I could show up exactly as I was, and yoga would meet me there. I never felt that kind of acceptance before. Yoga encouraged me, it allowed me, it invited me to take up space, to not only take up physical space, but to open my heart, which was kind of hard for somebody who was used to shrinking in and closing off, right? And so I started bringing these ideas I'd learned on the mat into my daily life, the philosophy of yoga, the ancient art and science of yoga. And again, I'm not sure that I was doing this consciously. I would weave bits and pieces, tidbits of wisdom my yoga teachers had shared on the mat. I would start to weave those into my daily life. And then over time, as I've deepened my own practice, deepened my own teachings, my own knowledge of yoga, I'm realizing what they were doing. And so ahimsa, this principle of non-harming, taught me to be kinder, not only to other people, but also to myself. There's a saying that if your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete. And then truthfulness, satya, helped me to see things as they truly are, not the way that I wanted them to be, not the way I wish them to be. Non-attachment, aparigraha, led me over time to simplify my life. And now this is in alignment with my values. It may not be with yours, but I moved to a smaller house. I live in a 700 square foot cabin in the woods. I downsized. My old house was 1440 square feet. And in the move, I got rid of over 75% of my belongings. Non-attachment, truth, non-harming. This is what feels good. This is what feels aligned and authentic for me. This is how I can shine my light because I'm supported in an environment that feels good for me. And so mindfulness became a way of life. I practiced noticing. I still practice noticing when I'm not present, bringing myself back to the here and now. And this taught me to trust myself and to live the life that's in front of me, not the life that I am remembering or even the life that I'm planning or hoping for. And I'll give you an example of this. The other day, I was driving down the road, and actually, I was driving down my dirt lane, and I was feeling quite overwhelmed, to be perfectly honest with you. I had an extensive to-do list, several deadlines, and wasn't quite sure how I was going to get it all done. And I noticed as I was driving down the lane, my eyes glanced up and I saw the clouds in the sky. And I noticed that I wasn't present. Like, yes, I was driving my car, I was watching where I was going, but my mind had wandered off like, oh my gosh, how on earth am I going to get all these things done? How on earth is all this going to happen? And then I started to think about, okay, what if for this short period of time that I am driving in my car, what if I just allowed myself to be fully present? What if I noticed the sounds, the birds chirping outside, the person mowing their yard down the road? What if I noticed the clouds floating through the sky, the flutter of the leaves on the trees? What if I was just here right now and I wasn't thinking about the future? I wasn't worrying about the past. How magical would it be to just live my life that's in front of me right now? And, so it's a practice. I'm used to catching myself when I wander off. And so it was just really powerful to bring me back into the present moment, to remind me that, all of these to dos, all of these deadlines, none of them are life and death. In reality, if I don't complete them in the timeline that I had set for them, most likely nobody but me is going to know. Nobody but me is going to be affected by them. And so it really gave me pause to check in with myself, to come back to myself, to notice, okay, I'm feeling the sense of overwhelm. I'm feeling disconnected from myself. I'm feeling disconnected from my body, but I can come back to my surroundings. I can come back to my breath. I can come back to the present moment to ground me in mindfulness, and I can reset my mindset, reframe my mindset. So, two of the practices, the mindfulness practices that I have found especially beneficial are body scans and mindful breathing. And so a body scan is, I love to do this before bed at night, especially if my mind is racing. It's just checking in with how I feel physically and kind of scanning the body from the crown to the toes, or the toes to the crown, whichever you prefer, and noticing how each body part feels, noticing if there is any kind of emotional attachment. You know how sometimes when you're feeling stressed out, you've got this nervousness in your gut, or your heart might be racing. It taught me to check in, but also it allowed me to steer my mind somewhere, so I could focus on relaxing each body part on the way up from the toes to the crown, or the crown to the toes. And it's a really wonderful way to help to not only check in with myself, but also to allow myself to relax and release. And then mindful breathing. This is one of my favorites. Just taking a few conscious breaths. There are tons and tons of breathing techniques and practices out there, but you can really just let it be simple. Take a few conscious breaths, connect to the breath, feel the breath coming and going. Whenever I feel overwhelmed, that's a practice I come back to. And it helps me to feel into the power of the pause and to respond rather than to react. And what's interesting? As I became more grounded, as I became more patient, as I became more self aware, my relationship with myself improved, but also the relationships with everybody around me improved as well, which is pretty amazing. I found the confidence, even though it was still challenging, to express my thoughts and needs. And again, this is still something that I'm working on. We work on progress, not perfection. I started becoming more aware of how I was talking to myself, that negative self talk, those self limiting beliefs. And I began to, acknowledge it and then reframe it to a more positive, more kind language. And yoga also helped me to figure out like what really mattered to me. By connecting with myself daily, I really got to know who I am, the good, the bad, the pretty, the ugly. I learned who I was, not who I was taught that I should be, not who other people expected me to be, but who I truly am. And, this is, of course, an evolution. We're always evolving. But let me tell you, my friend, for someone who always tried to mold herself into other people's expectations and tried to do and be what everybody else thought or wanted from me, or what I thought they wanted from me, that was a super powerful shift. It led to huge life changes, like choosing a simpler way of life, choosing to live closer to nature, choosing a more simple career path rather than climbing this corporate ladder. And so there's this idea, this concept of dharma, our life purpose. And, through yoga, I began to see more clearly that connection between the mind, body, heart, and soul, mind, body, and spirit, that connection. And it really made me to rethink my life direction. I realized that for me, climbing the corporate ladder, that wasn't my goal. That was what I thought that I was supposed to do. And so I made career moves to reduce stress, to find more fulfillment. Throughout this journey, yoga has been my anchor. It has given me tools like breathing techniques, like mindfulness to handle stress, to make decisions more intuitively, to trust my body, to trust the universe, to trust the process. I've learned to trust my body's signals instead of just trying to think my way through everything. And so the changes that I have experienced through yoga, especially in self awareness and this emotional intelligence, they have touched every part of my life. I get to practice showing up as the highest and best version of myself, the person that I want to be every single day. And that has been such a magical transformation. And so these days, I am connected to myself in a way that I never was before. I notice my emotions, I notice my energy levels, but it's just kind of like a constant checking in and tuning in. There's no judgment there. It's just curiosity and open minded awareness. It's just become natural. I check in with myself, my body, mind, heart, and soul. And I see where I'm out of balance or I see where I am in balance. Where do I need to focus a little more energy and attention to get into that place where I feel deeper into alignment? And I'm also able to handle emotions differently now. So I see all feelings as normal and necessary. And that's easier said than done, trust me. When my mom passed away, I could allow myself, I'll be honest with you, I shattered. I let myself break. I let myself fall apart. Um, and the reason for that was because I knew that I could approach it with curiosity, that grief is a natural part of our life experience, and that um, I needed to sit with it and allow it to process through me in its own time, in its own way. I saw something actually earlier today that says that the more we open our heart, the deeper we can feel. The deeper we can feel, the greater suffering we allow. And that by continuously opening our hearts deeper and deeper, we can process deeper and deeper emotions. We can sit with these deeper levels of suffering, but it's not beyond what our nervous system can handle. It's not beyond what we are equipped to deal with. And so when my mom died, I allowed myself to receive it all. I allowed myself to experience it all. And it wasn't pretty and it wasn't pleasant and it was beyond uncomfortable. And it was the worst experience I've ever been through in my life. But I had to go through it. And I had to allow myself to experience that because grief is a normal human emotion. And if I try to repress it, I don't know where that energy is going to go. And so I chose to sit with it. And, you know, moving on to a different topic, we were talking about, how I handle emotions differently now. In general, I would say that I'm most of the time more patient and understanding these days. There are exceptions, like, I don't know, do you get do you get hangry? Because I sometimes do. Um, we're all human. It's all part of the human experience. Again, it's progress, not perfection. But in general, I can process my emotions in a very um, empathetic, understanding, compassionate, and curious way, allowing all of the feelings now. Whereas before I used to try to repress all of the negative ones, now I allow the full spectrum of human emotions to process through my body and mind. And I'll tell you the truth, decision making is still not my favorite, but I can voice my opinions confidently now when I need to. And think about this when you're with somebody and nobody wants to make decisions, it's uncomfortable, right? I didn't know in hindsight. I thought that I was being the easy one, the go with the flow kind of person. But nobody wants to be the person who makes decisions all the time. Well, maybe some people do. But anyway, it's helped to improve my relationships because I feel it's more of an equal give and take. Like you decide sometimes, I decide sometimes, we can have a conversation. This is what I would prefer. However, I would be happy to go with this as well. This is the one that I prefer not to do. Right. So we're being open, we're being honest, we're being authentic. And it allows for our relationships to be more deep and honest. So I'm not a doormat anymore, my friend. I have found myself surrounded by great people who lift me up. And I feel like that is part of the natural evolution. As we get more in touch with ourselves, as we get to know more who we are, as we get into deeper alignment with ourselves, we naturally begin to attract people who are on a similar frequency, a similar path as we are. And so we rise together, we lift each other up, right? And so I guess what I'm trying to say is that this journey, my yoga journey, has opened me up to new and unique possibilities that I never even imagined. I have realized that I can follow my own path. You might see this behind me, follow your own path. My mom got me that a long time ago. And that's just kind of the way that I live these days, right? I can follow my own path. I can trust myself. I can trust the universe to guide me. And what I really want is the freedom that comes from a simple lifestyle. I don't need to keep climbing the career ladder. For me, that's not one of my core values. I don't need more stuff. I live in a 700 square foot house. Where am I going to put it? Um, it doesn't provide value to me. It's not one of my core values. That doesn't mean that's not what is, important to you. That means that's what's important to me. And what I want to do is less. I want to do less and be more. Human being, not a human doing, right? So I want to be more present. I want to be more focused. I want to be more mindful. I want to be more aware. I want to be a better friend. I want to be a better person. I want to be a better me. And so, as a yoga teacher and a coach, I've kind of combined that into yoga coach because it's just easier. I don't know, it's kind of fun. But I have to tell you that this transformation that I've been through myself, the path that I've walked in my own life, it has deeply influenced my work. So I don't just focus on the physical asana, the yoga poses anymore. I weave yoga philosophy into my classes in ways that I hope will relate to your everyday lives. Just like I was mentioning earlier, how my yoga teachers would weave in these themes without telling me. They wouldn't say, this is yoga philosophy. This is from Patanjali's Yoga Sutra, blah, blah, blah. They would just weave in the lesson. And then I would ponder it on the mat. And then I would take it with me off the mat. And before I knew it, I was living this yoga lifestyle and I didn't even know it. And I'm not talking about like the monk yoga lifestyle. I'm talking about yoga in the West as a modern Western woman, very, very busy. How I have chosen to incorporate it into my day to day life in a very meaningful way that is very non obtrusive, that is very natural. And so I don't just focus on the yoga poses. I try to do the same thing, to offer the same gift my teachers have gifted to me, to weave the philosophy into my classes in a way that can relate to our everyday lives. And so I'm a health coach, I'm a life coach, I'm an energy practitioner. I have found that mixing yoga philosophy, this ancient art and science of yoga, with modern coaching, magic, my friend. It creates more natural, grounded approach to transformation, to growth, to evolution. It's this, yoga offers us this path to fulfillment. It's laid out for us. The magical thing about it is that we can each apply it into our daily lives in a way that feels aligned and fulfilling and right for us. So it's just so amazing. I have to tell you that being more self-aware has helped me to handle challenges better. So, for example, like I mentioned earlier, when I feel overwhelmed by all my responsibilities, I can take that step back. I can take that deep breath and I can remind myself of what's really important to me. And I can prioritize without sacrificing my health, my well being, or my family time, my core values. My relationship with myself has changed dramatically. I have to tell you, I probably had one of the worst, lowest self esteems that I have ever encountered. The self loathing. I mentioned earlier that I could see all the negative, but I couldn't really see the positive in myself. And so now I'm happy to report that I am my own cheerleader. I'm still working on growing and improving. I probably always will. But I can be truly myself with other people now. And that's something that I really, really struggled with for most of my life. So that's new for me. It's pretty magical. I have this level of acceptance and awareness and resilience that I have never known before. And that, to be honest with you, I didn't expect to evolve into. Again, this is one of those side effects of yoga that I didn't ask for. I didn't know I needed or wanted. But wow, now that I look back and I see what I've gained from this practice, I'm just like, holy cow, wow, how far I've come. This journey has changed how I teach. It's changed how I connect with others, with clients. It took time to find my own voice as a teacher, but now I see it as my unique gift, right? I have a very unique perspective. I have a way of teaching and sharing my light. Every one of us does. Each and every one of us has that light within that nobody else has. And so this is my gift, and it's going to resonate with some people and it's not going to resonate with some people. And that's totally fine because I am able to offer this experience of yoga in a way that is true to me, knowing, like I said, that it might connect differently with different people. And likewise, in my coaching practice, I blend this philosophy of yoga with the health and life coaching, with a holistic wellness approach for a more complete approach to balancing and harmonizing and finding that alignment in body, mind, heart, and soul. And so, maybe most importantly, this growth and self awareness has helped me to achieve some really big dreams. I told you I live in a cabin in the woods. If you have listened to the show for a while, you know that this has been a childhood dream of mine to live in a little cabin in the woods, right? I have a less stressful job. I have a job that it feels like it's in alignment. I still work full time, and that job right now is perfect alignment for where I need to be. I am building a life I love. I love the life I live. And the more in alignment that I get with my heart's purpose, with my soul calling, the more good things come into my life and the more in alignment my entire world feels, right? So I am building this life I love and I love every bit of it. And so this just goes to show you through my own experience how this practice of yoga beyond the mat can change more than just your body. It can transform your whole entire life. I feel like I could go on about this forever, but let me see if I can start to pull it all together. So yoga has changed my life in ways that I never expected. I went to teacher training to deepen my own practice, and I couldn't not share this with you, especially because of the ways that it has helped me to understand myself, to connect with others. So, through a regular practice, through applying these yoga concepts, philosophies, principles, ideas to my life, to everyday life, I have gotten better at recognizing my own feelings, the feelings of the people around me. And so I can now respond to emotions in a much healthier way. So instead of just reacting, I can connect to the power of the pause, the power of the breath, and I can choose how I can react instead of just responding, without thinking it through. And so this, my friend, is what people often call emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is just a fancy way of saying that you understand and manage your own emotions, and you can recognize and respond to others' emotions as well. So it's about knowing how you feel, why you feel that way, and how your emotions affect your behavior and your relationships. So yoga has been a super powerful tool for developing this skill. And again, it's nothing I ever came to the practice seeking. It's just been a side effect of the practice. And so I think that two of the biggest lessons that I've learned probably are knowing yourself is the first step to personal growth, right? That's self-awareness. Yoga gives us a way to understand our thoughts, feelings, and actions better. And yoga meets us where we are every single day. And the second lesson is that it's not just about managing my own emotions, but it's also about understanding others. So yoga helps us to develop this compassion, this empathy, which are both key to connecting not only deeper with ourselves, but also with the people in the world around us, right? So here's how you can start this journey too, my friend. Keep it simple. Start small, progress, not perfection. You can start with just a few mindful breaths at the beginning and the end of your day, or whenever you need a moment of calm. You can allow your breath to bring you into the present moment. This is a small practice. It's a powerful practice. It can be a super powerful first step towards understanding yourself better and improving your relationships. So, if you are ready to go deeper, I invite you to join my Wildly Aligned Women program. And we are kicking things off in late August, the last week in August of 2024. And, what makes this program unique is how I blend the wisdom, the art, and science of yoga philosophy with modern life in a very practical, down to earth way. So, we're going to focus on building self awareness, emotional intelligence through simple, everyday practices. You're going to learn how to apply yoga philosophy to real life situations, which can help you to navigate challenges with more ease and grace. So, if you are considering joining me in Wildly Aligned Women, you might expect to connect more deeply with yourself and others, to find your own path, your own purpose, to let go of things that aren't serving you, to release whatever is holding you back from leveling up into the highest version of yourself, and to create a life that feels right for you. Now, remember, getting to know yourself better and improving your relationships, it is an ongoing process, but every step counts. So whether you start with a few breaths, whether you join me in Wildly Aligned Women, the most important thing is to just begin. Just take that first step, my friend. So, if you are interested in Wildly Aligned Women, and if you want to start creating a life that feels more you, I will invite you to visit the link in the show notes to learn more and to sign up. And I'm going to guide you through this program to a more fulfilling life through this pathway of yoga. So, it's going to be super fun. It's going to be super powerful and transformational. I would love to see you there. And again, even if that doesn't feel aligned for you right now, that's totally fine. Connect with yourself, connect with your breath, connect to the moment, and let it snowball from there. And so, my friend, again, this is episode 2 of Wildly Aligned. I've got 3 more episodes coming for you. So don't forget to tune in for my next episode, where I'm going to be exploring how yoga has helped me to build resilience, helping me to bounce back from life's challenges stronger than ever. So thank you for listening, my friend, and I will catch you next time.